Representative's Office, Steve Gill. Thank you for joining us, Steve.
Hey, Scotty.
Okay, so I want to first start with India and the President Trump's decision to remove India off of this reserve status that's really kind of just for larger developing economies. Was that a proper thing for President Trump to do? Is India still a developing economy?
I think the answer is yes on both counts. They are still a developing economy, and the question is, have they developed enough to no longer need some of the special treatment, the special access to the U.S. market? I think when you look at China and India, a lot of people see the same thing. They're both countries of over 1 billion people. They're both rapidly growing manufacturing and exporting countries. The difference is that China really is more advanced in terms of their infrastructure, being able to move products around their country. They're more advanced when it comes to the infrastructure of energy. In some areas of large production in India, you only have power about 6 or 8 hours a day. So while India has made great strides, they really still are a developing nation in terms of being on par with other first-year or first-level industrial nations. So I think their argument is we still need some breaks. The Trump argument is, hey, you guys are exporting hundreds of billions of dollars. We can't treat you like you're some small, minor country that's still trying to get out of the last century. So I think both sides have an argument, but it does provide an opportunity with Pompeo there to try and find a way to kind of ease the friction between the two countries at this point, and I think he'll do that.
Well, also playing into this is obviously the ongoing trade war between China and the United States. What is the relationship between China and India? And it seems like this ongoing trade war could actually be beneficial to India.
Well, India and China have also been doing deals. China's really trying to expand their global economic impact, as well as getting involved in South America, Africa, and other regions. So China is definitely on the move, and that's created some of the friction between the U.S. and China as well. I think the relationship between the U.S. and India has been strong for a long time. I think the personal relationships are there. And as Pompeo was saying in that earlier clip, the Indians have stepped forward to help isolate Iran, to help isolate Venezuela. And he's there to help make sure that they know they're going to continue to get the oil flow they need to continue their manufacturing, to continue their development, and not have to be basically held hostage by the Iranian oil and by the Venezuelans to take positions that aren't necessarily good for the world or good for India's growing economy as well.
Well, that's interesting that you bring up Pompeo and Iran because, you know, the thing that we have heard from Pompeo is that the conflict with Iran is mainly about national security, and we want to make sure that Iran does not get a nuclear bomb or encourage terrorism. But then why is Pompeo in India right now, a country whose oil was mainly supplied from Iran? They've cut it off, and it's obvious that, you know, Pompeo has oil to sell, or at least be a broker for other countries who are trying to sell oil to India at this stage, since they're not buying it from Iran anymore.
Well, I think the whole idea is to continue to tighten that noose around Iran economically. If you've got India, if you've got other countries that are buying their oil, even if through third parties, that gives them some relief. It puts resources into their pockets that allows them to continue to flood the markets for terrorists. It allows them to continue to fund their nuclear development. So the idea is to completely shut them off economically and force them to behave in a proper way. And by going to India, shutting off the flow of oil there from Iran by offering our exports of oil is not to kind of increase our prosperity by selling more oil, but to give them a resource other than having to depend on Iran. And I think that by shutting that down, and India has shown they're willing to do that, it just further tightens the noose around Iran and will force them to the table to negotiate.
But that's the thing. It's not like that Pompeo is going in here and saying, you know what, we're going to sell you oil from Russia or one of the other countries. No, we're going to sell you oil either from the United States or one of our allies like Saudi Arabia, which I think also fuels the fire. Steve, can you not see where some of those might say, this is the narrative that once again, the U.S. is getting involved in a major Middle East conflict over oil?
Well, generally we're involved or have been in the past when we weren't a net exporter of oil because we weren't producing enough of our own. We were dependent on the Middle East oil for ourselves. We're now in a position to be less dependent there where we don't have to rely on those sources, so we don't have to necessarily get involved in conflicts in the Middle East in order to protect our access to oil. We're doing it to protect ourselves and our fellow allies around the world from a nuclear conflagration caused by the Iranians who are trying to seek the nuclear weapons. So it is a national security issue. It's just because we've been able to develop more natural gas and oil resources so that we can export, we can now play that card in the international arena where 10, 20 years ago, we weren't able to do so.
Well, real quick, since the G20 is this weekend, do you think this is going to be a major topic of conversation? Obviously not only the Iranian conflict, but the trade issues that are going on with President Trump and China and how that's affecting all of the other countries.
Hey, with all the things going on, President Trump may need to be over there for a week and a half instead of just for a few days. You've got Kim Jong-un and the prospects of getting a summit with North Korea, and President Xi of China may help that along. You've got the trade dispute with China, and now you've got Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, saying we're about 90% of the way there. That's where we were when the trade talks broke down. And it occurred to me the day, if you jump off a building, 90% of the way down, you're going to be fine. It's just that last 10% that it's a problem, and it's that last 10% that's the problem in negotiating this deal. You've got Putin, you've got India. There is a lot for the G20 nations, and there's going to be about 37 nations there to get to, and I think we'll see some results. I think personal interaction is where Trump does best. You know, when they start letting the secondary folks negotiate the deal, we don't seem to get as much done as when he's there personally.
Well, then let's just make this deal. President Trump gets to stay for a week and a half. The rest of the people around him leave on Sunday after the weekend's over. How about that? Maybe
Let him just hang out at the pool with Kim Jong-un, with President Xi, with Putin, and the rest of them.
It's better than the golf course. Thank you for joining us, Steve.
Thank you.